everything that we've talked about today. I really don't think this will take very long. It's Melissa Wellman speaking for those of you as we still kind of try to get to know each other. And I'm going to walk you through what I see as an approver. In my office are America and Wendy. And I know that Jean is also on the line, and the three of them will be processing these invoices through Concur. So after the call, if there are any questions, the three of them can be good resources. Jean is the one who really knows how the DCIS invoices have been coded in the past, and America and Wendy know how the HCI invoices are coded. So if it's a coding question, an expense question, or who should be approving what, the three of that's how you can kind of field who can answer the question. So we'll start out just by I'll show you when you click on concursolutions.com, you'll see this is your home page. You'll put in your password, which I'll be honest, I don't remember mine right now, and you'll click sign in. You can kind of set a default page when you first log in. This is what it defaults to automatically. This is your dashboard, and from your dashboard you should be able to see everything that you have outstanding. So if you're on the adjuster side and you're approving anything for adjusters on the expense side, you'll see those expenses here also. But for the invoice side, you'll see two places you'll want to look. Up here at payment requests and required approvals. Payment requests means when they come, it's an invoice that has come to you that you are the first approver. Required approvals means that maybe it was a hotel bill and there's three different people who should approve something from that hotel bill, and somebody else maybe has already approved their piece. You'll be able to tell if it's already been approved to some extent because it'll show up in your required approvals. So here I have two payment requests. So I'm going to click on them, and it comes up and shows that I have a Lighthouse Security and a Cartridges Plus. Let's see if I can make this a little bit bigger for everyone to see. There we go. So everything that you should need to know about this invoice is kind of here on this front screen. It tells you who the vendor is, what the invoice number is, the invoice date, what the status of it is. We'll send you a listing of what all the different statuses are. So right now we see this has never been submitted. It's just sitting with me for approval. We know the payment status says it's not been paid. This is the total of the invoice. There's no comments on it. It's been with me since today. Concur also does a very good job of identifying duplicate invoices. So there are times you might get an invoice. If the invoice number and the invoice date are the same, it'll pop up and say, hey, this could potentially be a duplicate invoice. Okay, so when you want to go into the invoice, then double click. We're going to go into this Cartridges Plus. And from this screen, you see the same information that we just saw on the last screen. All of this should already be populated. You should not have to worry about messing with any of this. If you want to, you can double check the invoice number, the invoice date, the amount, based on what you see here in the image. You can see that all lines up, invoice number, date. I can go down to the bottom and say, okay, yep, the invoice total looks right. Down here at the bottom is the line information where it tells you what expense type it's being coded to. So I can look at this invoice and say, okay, it looks like toner, and it's being coded to supplies. And then I can look down here at this distribution code, which is usually the same as this distribution code up here, and say, okay, it's coded to the Diversified Services entity, the HCI line of business, the IT location, and the admin department. This approval in Concur goes hand in hand with visibility within the forecast that we've talked about, and just understanding that what you're approving is hitting your budget, and making sure that you see what hits your budget so that you can work with those costs a little bit better. So as I'm looking at this, everything appears to be okay. If for some reason I want to add more line items, say there was not just an expense for the IT department, but maybe somebody in the admin department ordered something. I could click on this and I could distribute, and there's two ways to distribute. I can just go into it and add distributions, as many as I want. I can distribute by percentage, or I can distribute by amount. In the same token, I can import my distributions. We're hoping that there's not a lot of this that has to happen. Not that it's time consuming, but sometimes it can be a little bit time consuming. There's an import template that you can go in, and I have one that I just keep saved somewhere in here, right here. And I can click import, and basically what that does is take this $239.97, and I've gone into that import template and told it where I want it to import. That's the user guide. Let me go in here and go to the import template. And I'll show you what this import template looks like. Came up over here. So this is what this import template looks like. It's very basic. It's essentially amount, entity, line of business, location, department. So you can put your amount that total the amount of your invoice, all the different combinations that should be coded to that invoice, and then just import it. And you'll get an error if it's out of balance, because essentially what you're importing should tie to this total $239.97. So right now we've gone into two ways that we can import. You can either click on the distribute and import, or click on distribute and distribute this way. You can import, or when you distribute, you can allocate a favorite. So if I go in here and I'm adding distributions and I say, okay, for Cartridges Plus, it always gets coded to these three departments, and let's say one of them's claims, and let's say one of them is marketing. So these three, I know every time I get a Cartridges Plus invoice, these three are the departments that are coded to that invoice. I can add this to the favorites and call it Cartridges Plus, save it, and then, which I'm not going to do because I already have a favorites in here that you can see, and it'll show up here every time, no matter what invoice you're looking at. So for example, I have a parking vouchers one for when people visit the office and we give them parking vouchers. This is how we charge them. When that comes in, these amounts are usually different, so I'll just go in and manually change the amount. And as I change these amounts, I can see up here to the right what this allocation looks like. So total here, $239.97 is how much I need to make sure I distribute. I've already distributed $319, so I've distributed way too much. So let's see how much. So now I'm $550 short. $44.50, and I can see here that I've got 0 remaining, so I'm fully distributed based on these three different locations. And I save, and you'll see down here that it's now added these distributions. Like there might have been a little bit of a rounding on that one. Added these distributions, and the amount to be itemized is 0. Are there any questions so far? Okay, it's pretty self-explanatory in a lot of ways. Some resources for you up here. Well, here it tells you the vendor information. So if something looks funky on here, this is a good opportunity where you can change it. Let's see what view does. Maybe view just shows you more information about that. I'm too big. There we go. But here up in Actions and Details, you have more information that you can look at. If there's maybe a different approval email or something like that that you want to attach to the image, you can select Upload Image and go find something on your desktop and upload it. It what? Yep, it won't find it unless it is, right? Or will it? Oh, okay. So America just brought up there are certain file formats it'll allow. You can tell she works in this a lot more than I do. And then you just select Upload. And then over here, it'll normally refresh on its own, but for the sake of time, I'm just going to go ahead and manually refresh it. And then when I scroll down, I should see what I just loaded, which is, that's what this is. So you can upload, a lot of times, if I've gotten information, for example, yesterday, I received an email about a scanner lease and had the invoice and then email that kind of documented what's going on with that scanner lease. I went ahead and for the sake of keeping everything in one place, scanned that and saved that to the receipt information. That way going forward, when I look back at what's been paid, I can see all of that detail. If there's a part of an image you don't like, you can delete it. If you think that this invoice came to you in error, you can unassign it to yourself and then put, you know, I don't think that this is mine, or I think this should be Danny's, or, you know, whatever the case is. And those comments stay here in history. So those comments and these invoices go back to accounting, and then they'll reroute it to somebody else. You can delete the request, although we do track what's been deleted. The only time I think you would delete a request is if it's something that we do not need to pay. An example of this is sometimes we get what looks like an invoice in for Yellow Pages, and it might accidentally get loaded in here because it looks like an invoice, and it gets routed to you, and you know, hey, this is not an invoice, this is not something that we need to pay. Then you can delete the request or unassign it with a comment that we don't need to pay it. You can always view capture details. When would they do this? Would they ever do this?
No, but if you want to see that's where you go to see the email, see the email.
Oh,
body.
yep, okay.
Somebody said, hey, I put that in the email, that's where you do.
Okay, so when we receive invoices, they come in the form of an email to an accounting inbox. From that accounting inbox, and maybe this is how I should have started the whole conversation. From the accounting inbox, we then send the invoices to invoice capture here in Concur, where this Concur module looks at all the different fields and codes everything for us. It's not perfect 100% of the time, but it does a lot of the work for us. If you ever want to see what's in the body of that email, here's where you can go and look at it. We can see here that Wendy sent it in. We can see that here also. But if there was something within the body of the email that had more information in it, for example, sometimes I'll send something in and say, hey, so-and-so should approve this, and it should be coded here. This is where somebody could go in and look at that. Okay. Figure out how to get back. You can print. I think that's pretty much from here all you should have to worry about using. Details, if you want to see comments within the invoice, they'll all show up here. So if somebody else would have, maybe before this Cartridges Plus invoice came to me, maybe it went to somebody else and they had said, hey, Melissa should approve this. I can look in the comments and see that, because I might look at this and say, well, why am I approving this? The first thing I'll probably do is look in the comments and figure out why it came to me, and that can have a lot of information. You can also look at the audit trail and see where it's been. So, and the audit trail is a little bit weird because it goes from newest is at the top and oldest is at the bottom. So I see that at 8:44 this morning, it hit Concur, and you can see here who updated it. Then I see Wendy received it. Looks like she made a couple of changes, looked at a few things, and then sent it to me. So if I have a question about why I received something and I look at this audit trail and see Wendy sent it to me, I'll call Wendy and say, hey, why did you send this to me? You know, whereas if I call America or Jean and they're not the ones that sent it to me, they might not know why Wendy sent it to me. And then there's this approval flow. So if you've looked at this and said, okay, well, I agree with it, but I still think, and this is a good thing for the forecast delegates, if a forecast delegate looks at something and says, well, yeah, I agree, but I still think somebody else needs to look at this, you can click this little plus button and add another approver. So I can say, well, yeah, I really think so-and-so should look at this. Let me search somebody here. I think Rocky needs to look at this one. And then I can save the workflow. And once I've processed this through me and once I've approved it, it will go to Rocky and he can look at it.
But you have to hit a sign.
Oh.
Once you get your workflow set up, you want to hit a sign. If you hit submit request, it'll send it to accounting.
Okay.
If you want it to follow the workflow, you have to hit a sign.
Okay. So America just corrected me. When you click this and I put somebody in here to approve, say I want Rocky to do it, and I hit save workflow, then I hit assign. If I hit submit request, it goes to accounting. If I hit assign, let's see, then it should go to Rocky.
Yeah.
It says it's not submitted. Did I do it wrong?
No,
Okay.
should have won it.
Okay.
If you look under, did you go back to processor?
No.
And see where it shows
I'd rather be able to look here and see.
let me look at it.
We'll look into that. But at any rate, it's a functionality that usually works just fine. But if our processors know when they're processing these requests that so that there's a string of people who need to approve, they'll set these workflows up ahead of time so that it'll end up going to each of those individuals.
You're an approver, so it works different. They do that in submit request.
Oh, okay. Let me try it again.
It's ready to go.
So I put Rocky in here. Now I'm going to hit submit request and see what it does. It's telling me it has one or more exceptions. Oh, it says it's a duplicate invoice number. So it looks like we've already processed this one, and it's not going to let me go any further with this. At that time, then I'll probably just unassign it to myself, put duplicate, and let it go back to accounting. And it's out of my queue now, and I don't have to worry about it. If I missed anything, ladies. Are there any questions on the phone?
I think the next verse is showing how to look under processor and how to search if you want to look at old invoices.
Well, can they look? I don't think they can look under processor, can they? They can?
Look under
Oh.
processor, process request.
Okay. So
you can use that search.
Oh, perfect. So there's two places then, once you've approved all your invoices, there's two places you can go and look. Under Manage Requests, My Requests, you can view all the requests that you have approved. They call it submitted. So if I go to All Requests, I look at everything that I've approved. The fact that they were extracted means that we've paid them, how much they were. So if I know that I've approved something, I can go up and say, well, what have I approved for wax? And it'll show me everything, the date, the invoice dates of each one. So I can go all the way back and look to see how much I've approved for this specific invoice. And then also, if you want to look at something maybe that you haven't approved, can they see everything?
I'm not sure if they can see everything. I know they can because I told Becky look at everything.
Okay.
Very low, but they've got that changed to 3 months.
Yep.
And you can change your time period.
Okay.
And then do your search. So if you want to look at a specific time period.
So if you want to look, at something more broad, you can go to this process request. It defaults to the last 3 months. If you click change, we can look at everything from 14, 16. And search. And this pulls up everything, and we see down here at the bottom it's displaying 1 through 25 of 1,529 results. That means that in the last year through Concur, we've approved 1,529 invoices. You can see who's approved them, the vendor. That way if there's any question about something, what an invoice is, how much it's been in the past, and maybe prior to this invoice, somebody else has approved it, you can go in here and look. Let's see, I think we covered everything. You will receive email notifications. I've got one right here that I received this morning. It just pops up and says, payment request assigned. I know who it is. I know how much it is. I know who assigned it. I can even click here if I want to go straight to Concur and approve it. Am I missing anything? I think that's pretty much it. Here's kind of a cheat sheet of the different statuses that you might see. So not submitted means obviously nobody's ever approved it. Pending approval means it's setting, maybe it's been approved once, right, and then it's with somebody else for approval, and it'll normally say pending approval and tell us who's approving it. Once it's in accounting review, that means somebody's already approved it, and now it's sitting in accounting to process and just make sure everything looks correct. Approved means it's through all approvals. And then we also look at the payment status. So if you're looking back, if somebody questions, hey, did we ever get this paid, you can look back and say, no, it still says not paid, or it's pending payment, which means it's in accounting review, or it's been extracted, which means it's already been paid. And then if you want check information or whatnot, you can always go to Jean or America or Wendy to help with that information. This? Oh, sure. Yeah, that's so. This kind of helps give us the timing. Do you want to speak to this? Okay. It put in your user guide that you're going to get. Just kind of gives you an idea if you're wondering like how soon these invoices have to go through, how soon do they get sent to you. As soon as something comes into accounting, we load it into the invoice capture immediately and get it assigned out to you as soon as that invoice comes in. We don't have a waiting period when it comes to paying invoices. We pay them as soon as possible. And just so you know, if you're worried about the status of when something will get paid, if you know it has to be paid by a certain time, or if you notice the payment date on the invoice, we just wanted you to be aware of kind of how that works. And so any invoices that you get and you have processed and we process through accounting by close of business on Monday, those will get paid on Tuesday. If you miss that Monday night deadline, because everything in Concur before it can actually be paid has to process overnight. So if it makes it through that final accounting review, what that means is that night it will process into an extract file that we can then send on to have turned into a check or an automatic payment. So if you have those in by Monday, those will pay out on Tuesday. Anything after Tuesday and Wednesday, close of business Wednesday night, those things can be paid on Thursday. So if you get an invoice at the last minute and you know it needs to be paid, that kind of gives you a schedule of where we're at. So if you need something before that or you're concerned, make sure that you contact us. But that just gives you an idea so you know when things will get done. If you have something pending your approval for too long, you will get a reminder. It will send you a reminder. I believe that it's 7 days if it's been pending with you. It will send you another email and let you know that you've had an invoice pending your approval for a long time.
and it will ask you to actually, to get that moving. If you do have contact, I know a lot of you are on the front lines as far as when we establish a new vendor, you're the one that talks to them or makes a determination that we're going to do business with them. Just a few little helpful things to make that process go more smoothly. When you talk to that vendor, you can go ahead and offer them up our accounting email address, which is the DCIS-accounting@cgb.com. Getting those invoices to come electronically into the email speeds up the process. And also at that time, you can let them know that we can make ACH payments instead of them getting a check, which also makes it a little bit more effective. And if that's something that they're interested in, just let us know, and we'll make sure they get set up with that process. And also, if you're going to be gone for an extended period of time, you're going on vacation, something's going to keep you away from the office, and you know you're not going to be able to approve invoices. If you call into accounting, we can set up a delegate for you for that period of time that you're gone, so you don't have to worry or feel like if I'm not there, my invoices won't get approved. We can put that delegate in place for you for that period of time that you'll be out of the office.
Are there any questions? Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and send out the recording of this, and we'll also send out this PowerPoint guide. I think it's going to be, we haven't really sent a whole lot of invoices on the DCIS side through Concur, but I think we're going to probably start that soon, so you'll see those start hitting your Concur queues. If there's any questions in the meantime, did we discuss that she normally issues payments on Mondays and Wednesdays?
Mm-hmm. Mondays and Thursdays. On
Mondays and Wednesdays. Yep. So AP is Monday and Wednesday. We'll change this, but AP is processed on Mondays and Wednesdays. Jean just corrected us, so we'll update that. But if there are any questions as we get into this, please just don't hesitate to give one of us a call. We want to make this as easy as possible for everybody. All right. Well, thank you, everybody.
Thank you, Melissa.
Thanks.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.
Thanks. Bye-bye.